My entitled ex-wife tries to lie and ruin my life after she's caught having an affair with another man. She even went as far as calling the police, claiming that I was a danger to her life. But after having video footage proving her wrong, I eventually took her to divorce court and not only got full custody of our kids, but also prevented her from getting anything from me in return. And I've never been more happy to have my life back. Here's what happened. So for those of you who remember me, I'm the guy whose wife made our kids release a wild bunny in the middle of our yard after I advised her to have the kids take it to the bushes just to try and release it safely. And well, as you could imagine, a hawk took the bunny right in front of both of our children and they freaked out on their mother. They then came running back in tears. Our kids then started calling their mother the Bunny Destroyer, and that name seems apt right about now. And other people called her that as well after her affair got out. I'm now speaking as a free man after finishing up divorce a couple of months ago, so buckle up, this is a long one. So I did show my wife my original post about the bunny, and she was very angry with me, so much so that it caused a bad fight. And after it, I got the silent treatment for another week. I tried to make my kids stop mistreating their mother after the bunny incident, even with being punished by small groundings and timeouts. But the Bunny Destroyer nickname just kept coming back every time our kids got angry with their mother. My wife let up her cold shoulder routine after a couple of weeks and eventually conceded that she should have listened to me about the bunny and should have taken it to the bushes like I said. She claimed that she felt that she needed to defend herself because she didn't want to be wrong. Well, I accepted that apology and apologized myself for even making that post online in the first place. I wanted us to go to marriage counseling, but she refused. She acted like there was nothing wrong with our marriage, and I decided to not push the issue any further since things were seemingly getting along a lot better. But after a few weeks, my oldest came to me saying that she wanted to tell me something. There was another reason why she was so mad at her mother, and it was more than just the bunny incident, but she was scared to tell me. I comforted her and I told her that she could tell me anything. Well, what she said shocked me and changed everything in an instant. She said that for months, Mama had been bringing a man over some Saturdays I was at work and had referred to him as her special friend. She even got her kids to keep quiet about it by various means of bribery. But my eldest realized that something was very wrong with it and spent some time working up the courage to tell me. Kids know things and they pick up on stuff very quickly, and I really dislike it when people dismiss those facts. I had noticed that my wife is acting a bit different lately. She had been more short with everyone, especially the kids. I tried talking to her about it when I showed her my first post, and she just went off on me about any little thing she could think of. She insulted my appearance, my character, my habits. She even insulted my side of the family. She even brought up that I used to smoke, even though I quit over 10 years ago. Then she resorted to locking me out of the bedroom and crying so loud that everybody in the house could hear it. So my eldest came to me and I ended up putting two and two together. She was cheating, and her behavior was very similar to the mood swings that she had while pregnant with both of our children. And I say similar because it was even worse. From what I've gathered searching online and what friends and even a counselor have told me, my wife was both very moody from hormones and projecting because of her infidelity. I can't claim to be an expert in psychology, but it does seem to make sense. I wanted this all to be a misunderstanding, but I quickly ordered and set up a few hidden cameras without anyone knowing. I had them delivered to my work just so no one at home would see them. Then I set them up on a day with my wife out to have a girls' night with her friends. It was very easy to hook them up and connect them to the Wi-Fi. In just a few short hours, I could monitor every part of the house from my home PC, as well as my laptop and work PC. At first, I was worried that I might have been going overboard. I thought if it turned out I was wrong, then I could remove the cameras and no one would ever know. But no, my worst fears were confirmed as I got plenty of evidence in just the first week. The man my wife had taken as her affair partner is a former colleague of hers. I remember him quite well as they both seemed close with my wife whenever I met him at various functions. My wife quit her job years ago to be a full-time mom after getting pregnant with our first. It was a mutual decision for both of us at the time. My wife stayed connected with her former coworkers as they were her best friends, but not anymore, because what I'm about to tell you has pretty much made her hated by everyone. Firstly, her affair partner is younger than my wife by about a decade. She mentored him at her former job to fill a position when she left, and the two of them stayed very close, and I mean very close. My wife and I are both over the age of 40, but you would not know it from looking at her. She is positively physically stunning. She got mistaken for someone in their 20s quite a lot, and I guess she capitalized on that. I ended up confiding to my sister about what was going on and showed her the footage from the nanny cams. She told me she suspected this for a while and said that she'd seen my wife once at a local bar getting a little bit too close with a man that wasn't me, but they never kissed or anything like that while she was watching, just a lot of touching on the shoulders and lower back. And since she wasn't sure, she didn't tell me sooner. I ended up offering a GPS tracker as well, and after I got it working, I hid it in the trunk of my wife's car. My sister and her husband agreed to help me and follow the tracker on my wife's next supposed night out with her friends. She went to a completely different place 20 miles further away than where she usually goes, and from there she would meet up with the affair partner. Now, my sister and my brother-in-law observed them for some time from their car. They noticed that the affair partner kept rubbing her belly while they were talking, and they recorded video of this too. When I saw the footage, I knew she had to be pregnant with a baby since she was so moody at home. My sister and brother-in-law had to calm me down because I turned into a complete mess. I wanted to self-medicate with alcohol, but my sister very correctly told me that drinking was the worst thing I could do at a moment like this. Later, I decided to take a leave from work, but told my wife I was actually going to be on a business trip. And when she heard this news, she literally could not have been more excited about it and didn't even try very hard to hide her glee that I would be leaving for a while. I mean, who is this woman? She is certainly not the one I married almost 20 years ago, right? Did someone who looks exactly like her just take her place one day? I mean, did I even know her? She felt like an alien to me. The more I thought about it, the less it made sense to me. So my conclusion was that trying to make sense of anything wouldn't do me any good. I had cameras all over that house, and my sister and brother-in-law agreed to take my kids for a few days because they love visiting auntie and uncle in the city. This gave my wife the exact opening that she wanted. She called her affair partner only a few hours after I left, and he showed up that evening to spend the night. I won't go into any details about what they did around the house. You can fill in those details yourself. But on top of all that, they were joking about me continuously. They openly talked about their baby and how they needed to figure out what to do before her belly starts to show, as she was already over 3 months along by then, and there was no way it could be passed off as mine, especially since the affair partner is a different race than me. So it would be pretty easy to tell that the baby wouldn't be mine from birth. My wife brushed her affair partner's concerns aside and said that they had months to figure it out. Then she shamelessly admitted that this wasn't even her first affair, as she had spent some quality time with another man when she was 29 years old. She told her affair partner that she was sick of having to act like the good housewife, and how she was tired of being around a boring man like myself that made her feel old. And if it wasn't for me being so financially stable, she would have left me a long time ago. Even her affair partner asked her about what her plan was for her kids, and her exact words were to say that I can have them. She didn't even want to be around our kids anymore because she thought that they liked me better, and she would soon be having her own do-over baby again anyways. I very nearly threw the laptop on the floor in the motel room because I was so disgusted, but I contained myself, drank a little bit, and got some dinner at a diner. Then I watched a movie just to try and get my mind straight. After that, I spent half the night just laying there in bed, thinking till I finally fell asleep. I thought I knew my wife so well. I loved her and would have given her all that I had to give. But in the end, some people are just evil, and you can never really know who they are until they reveal their true self. I made up my mind right then and there to destroy her in divorce. I'm normally a very calm and collected man, but get me angry enough and I can become your worst nightmare. I went to see a law firm for divorce lawyers the very next day and asked for the meanest lawyer that they had. I live in an at-fault state, so my wife was in serious trouble the moment I had her affair on camera. The lawyer was initially apprehensive that I wanted to hire him so quickly until I explained my situation in more detail, and I even showed him some of the video footage, and that's when he got a devilish grin on his face and we shook hands. He said that he would start right away because this was the kind of case divorce lawyers love to dig their teeth into. I had my wife served a few weeks later on a day I was working from home, and the kids were thankfully in school. The eldest is in kindergarten and the youngest is in preschool. The papers were delivered right to my wife's hand by the local sheriff. The cameras caught it all. She looked scared while she opened the envelope, read the contents, and then lost her mind. She came running into my office to scream at me, but I remained cool and collected the entire time. I was already completely mentally checked out of our marriage. My wife wanted to argue, but I just told her I'd made up my mind. I wanted her out of my house. I'm the only one who's ever paid the mortgage. She screamed at me that I can't do this to her. And then she actually threatened to tell people that I was hurting her if I took her to court, and she would get me fired from my job to boot. I told her to go right ahead and make up any lie that she wants. It won't help her. I mean, it's not like she wasn't planning on screwing me over since she's pregnant with her affair partner's baby anyways. When I said that, she went wide-eyed and asked me how much I knew. I just said that I knew enough, and I told her once again that I wanted her to leave. She refused and said it was just as much her house as it was mine. Then she locked herself in the bedroom. I saw on the bedroom cameras that she was having a meltdown and then pulling her phone out and calling the police. She was acting like she was in complete panic, but there was a huge smile on her face while she was doing it. She was quite the actress after all. I would have believed this performance over the phone in a heartbeat if I didn't already know that she was a liar. I waited for the police with the front door wide open and told them to come in when they arrived. They were initially hot-blooded and ready for a showdown, but the house was clean, there was no sign of any sort of fight. My wife came running out of the bedroom and grabbed the vest of the officer while crying and saying that I was a maniac. I then asked one of the other officers to let me show them evidence of what is really going on, and he agreed. And when I said this really startled my wife, as she was not aware that I had recorded her. I showed the officer the footage from the camera on my laptop, showing that my wife was saying that she'd make up all this stuff just to try and ruin my life. Then I showed the footage from the living room after she ran out of my office and into the master bedroom down the hall. And then I showed the footage from the camera in the bedroom of her calling the police and just straight up lying. I had recorded it all, and from multiple angles at that. And even though she claimed to the police that I had supposedly hit her, there was not only no marks on her, but the cameras all around the house showed a completely different story. Then I handed the police a thumb drive and said it had all the video footage they needed of her calling them under false pretenses. My wife, even in the face of all of this evidence, stuck to her lie, saying that I was a horrible person, and even tried to say the recordings were illegal and therefore inadmissible. But I pointed out that they are legal because they were security cameras inside of my own home and not recorded in public. My wife looked at the police officer and told them to please do something, to which they absolutely did, because she was the one put in handcuffs, and she started bawling like a child. I could only sit there shaking my head. This was once the woman I'd loved so much for so many years. I thought she was a wonderful, intelligent, and endearing person, but I couldn't have been more wrong. As the police took her away, she screamed that they couldn't do this to her, but didn't fight back much. Otherwise, resisting arrest would have been added to her charges. I then shut down all of her credit cards that were in my name and stopped any future payments into the joint bank account. So she had to use entirely her own money to bail herself out of jail. She had saved plenty of money all those years that she was still working, while the mortgage was only on me. So she was literally anything but broke. She came back for her car, which I had taken the liberty of packing a few of her suitcases full of her clothes, as well as some other things, and left the key on the seat. So she wasn't even able to come back into the house. My wife's parents did come to speak to me a day after she bailed herself out of jail. Initially, they only had the backstories of what she told them, which was basically the same thing she tried to tell the police. Her father especially was ready to attack me. He is old, but he's also very big and very strong. But when I asked him if he knew anything about my wife's affair or her pregnancy, he looked very surprised and thankfully gave me the chance to explain myself. So I pulled out the laptop again and I showed my in-laws what I had recorded. And when they found out the truth, they were disgusted and said that they couldn't believe this person was their daughter. They apologized to me and said that they would keep in touch to help out with my kids. Then they called my wife on speakerphone right in front of me and confronted her about all of her lies. She tried to double down until they said that they were with me and that they had seen the recordings. They said that they knew everything and they wanted her out of her house immediately. She tried to backpedal, but my in-laws said that they did not raise their daughter to act this way and they were astonished that she would try to frame her own husband, and she was no longer their daughter. They disowned her over the phone right then and there, and then hung up before my wife could say anything else. She tried calling back, but they ignored her every attempt. And when they got home, not only was she gone, but she had destroyed several things around the house, which my mother-in-law was in tears about. Now, I still consider my ex's parents my in-laws because they still would drop in from time to time just to see their grandchildren. But my ex, on the other hand, is effectively non-existent to us. My wife later came back with her affair partner in tow to pack her things. The affair partner wouldn't even come into the house, and my wife refused to speak a word to me, all while gathering her remaining belongings. She knew there were cameras everywhere, and she would only dig herself a bigger grave if she tried anything else. I wasn't alone either, as my sister and brother-in-law were there to keep an eye on her. My brother-in-law made sure to keep his eye on the affair partner from the window. My wife was still packing when the kids got home, and she made no attempt to speak to them either, not even when our youngest was crying for her. Before leaving, she did take a few of the photos that we had of each other from our wedding off the wall and threw them on the floor just to break them. I think she was expecting a reaction out of me because of the way she looked at me while doing it, but since I didn't say anything, she just took the last of her bags and walked out the door. After she was gone, I had to call my elderly mother to come stay with me for a while because I couldn't take care of the kids alone. I couldn't take a lot of time off of work, and I didn't have a lot of daycare options either. And you know what? I also ordered DNA tests for my kids because even though I was sure that they were mine, several people told me that just in case I had to know. And thankfully, yes, both of my children are mine. About a week later, my wife showed up at my door saying that she would agree to a clean divorce if I did as well, meaning that she would have gotten half of everything if I had agreed. But I straight up said no to her face. There was some fighting back and forth, and she more or less admitted to finding out that the law in this state was definitely not on her side. After all, we met, we got engaged, and got married and lived our whole lives in this state. There was no way she could get out of taking a major loss unless I agreed to settle, which I absolutely did not. Then I said that she betrayed me, our kids, her parents, and practically everyone by having this affair. I then slammed the door in her face. She quietly left, and I didn't see her again until court. A few months later in divorce court, my wife was visibly quite pregnant by then, and she had gotten a lawyer as well. The affair partner was nowhere to be seen. I expected her to try and lie to the judge, which she started to do a few times, but I had enough video evidence to refute any of her lies, so she really didn't have any kind of chance to win this. So instead, she just kind of dragged out the divorce by simply refusing to cooperate and making various demands. She wanted most of my savings for starters, and she wanted a long list of other things that I own, and she wanted me to buy out of her half of the house, even though she never paid into it. On my end, I was pushing for full custody of the kids and to get her name off of the deed of my house. After all, I had the video evidence to back up how she said that she didn't even care about our children anymore and how she would make up all these lies just to hurt my reputation. My wife tried to stall and repeatedly would change her demands, but the judge didn't let her keep dragging things out. This being an at-fault state meant that she was entitled to very little since she was the one who committed the affair, and her attempting to frame me only made her case even worse. In the end, she lost all custody of our kids and walked away with nothing more than her belongings, and that honestly could be considered a fair financial settlement considering the circumstances, as well as the car I'd previously bought for her. The title was in my name, but I signed it over without any care in the world as part of the settlement. She made no attempts to even speak to our kids during the entire divorce anyways, so I ended up getting full custody. The house is entirely mine now, and I'm completely free of this crazy woman. My now ex-wife did try to keep up with her lies about me to others before and during the divorce, but my sister spread word around of my wife's infidelity, and soon all mutual friends cut her off when they realized who was telling the truth. She and her affair partner left town together after the divorce ended. I heard that the affair partner wasn't fired, but he was transferred. Where he got transferred to, who knows? But I do know that my ex had to go with him. They could have transferred him and my ex to freeze in Greenland for all I care. I'm just happy that they've both left. My ex should have had her do-over baby by now, and I hope it was all worth it to her. Now, this is not what I expected to be posting online after just talking about my wife releasing a bunny where a hawk could get it. But many of the comments I previously got about the way that my wife was acting made me realize that I should have been paying attention to the red flags a long time ago. I guess I just kept rose-tinted glasses on for the entirety of our marriage. But it's all over now, and I'm so thankful that I have my life to live. What an unbelievable situation. This lady went around behind her husband's back and did stuff that was absolutely inexcusable. She didn't care about her kids. She just wanted to have a do-over baby. She's been cheating on this guy for years, and she actively tried to lie and say that he was hurting her, as well as doing all these other horrible things just to try and ruin his life. Like, that is honestly crazy crazy to me. This guy seriously deserves so much better. And this entitled Karen of a wife got exactly what she deserved. She lost everything. She didn't get a cent from this guy except for maybe the car, and he was able to move on with his life with his kids. Those kids deserve so much better than that horrible mother. I mean, she said it best. She literally did not care about this guy or his kids in the slightest. And that was some smart thinking by the original poster. They got cameras, they set it up in their house, and they got all the evidence they would ever need. Without those cameras, his case would have been absolutely thrown away. He would have had no proof of what was happening, and his wife very easily could have gotten him in trouble for something that he wasn't doing. So I really hope the original poster is happy with the life they finally earned. They got their cheating wife away from their children, and he moved on and now hopefully has a good life. And hopefully for the sake of him and his kids, his life improved substantially after having to endure his ex-wife's lies as well as her blatant slander. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.